President Biden has announced an aggressive new effort to write off student loan debt for up to 30 million borrowers.
Student loan borrowers are probably feeling pretty cheerful this morning after President Biden announced more cancellation.
Today, President Biden will unveil the Biden's plan.
Meet Joel. He's a 49-year-old musician from New York City. He spent 9 years studying music in college, undergrad and a master's degree. But when he got out, he realized playing the fiddle doesn't pay the bills. Well, that wasn't until this past Feb when got an email from the White House letting him know that the $250,000 bill he'd racked up went poof. Who paid for it? You did.
Joel is one of 4.8 million student loan borrowers who have had some or all of their debt dumped on American taxpayers by the Biden administration. Another one is Ben Kamens, a congressional staffer who ignited a social media firestorm by bragging about how Biden forgave his debt, even while he was receiving taxpayer-funded loan assistance through his job. The Biden administration wants you to believe that most beneficiaries of student loan forgiveness are down on their luck, when that's clearly not the case. The average income for one type of debt cancellation is more than $300,000.
Student debt forgiveness is a policy that really does benefit people who are better off. You know, if you got more education, if you went to medical school or law school and took on a lot of student debt, odds are you're probably going to be pretty well off in life. You might have a lot of debt, but you're probably going to earn a pretty high salary as well. The people who never went to college, people who only have a high school degree, they're probably going to tend to earn a bit less, and they're not going to benefit at all from student loan forgiveness.
In fact, a survey found that 73% of applicants to Biden's first loan cancellation effort plan to spend their newfound money on non-essentials like vacations, wedding parties, and gaming systems. 28% said they'd likely spend on drugs and alcohol.
We're easily approaching well in excess of $400 billion in forgiven debt since January of 2021.
That's more than twice the annual spending of the U.S. Department of Education. So, how did we get here?
Student loan forgiveness is simply the means to achieve the left's long-term policy goal, free college for all. And once you understand that, a lot of things fall into place. This is a frog that has been boiling for years, and the repeated efforts by the Biden administration to cancel student loan debt is simply the result of a concerted strategy by think tankers, public interest lawyers, and elected officials on the left in and out of Congress to get borrowers, and frankly the public, used to the idea of not paying student loans.
On the day Biden took office, he extended the student loan payment pause that was put in place during the pandemic to give borrowers a temporary emergency reprieve. This kept interest rates set at zero and monthly payments suspended. Biden continued to extend the freeze for college borrowers until Congress finally acted to put a stop to it in September 2023. By then, it had cost taxpayers $268 billion.
What did we actually get for that? I would argue we didn't actually get very much, because people are in the exact same situation when the pause ended in 2023 as they were when the pause began in 2020. It did not address the fundamental issue here, which is the fact that the federal government makes too many student loans, sometimes to people who are not going to be able to pay them back, and it doesn't actually solve that issue. It just kicks the can down the road.
In August of 2022, Biden announced his plan to forgive up to $20,000 in college debt en masse. The cost was estimated at $430 billion. All of this happened against the backdrop of rampant inflation. Mass loan cancellation makes inflation worse because the federal government must either borrow or print more money. The Congressional Budget Office recently revised its deficit projections by an additional $400 billion, with student loan forgiveness being the chief driver of the change.
Teacher unions, particularly the American Federation of Teachers and the National Education Association, have pushed for loan cancellation programs like PSLF, Borrow Defense, SAVE, and the stroke of a pen mass student loan forgiveness that President Biden attempted several years ago. The AFT and the NEA are key constituencies for this loan forgiveness and have pushed for it hard within Democratic Party circles in Congress and against the department.
All of a sudden, when it's about our students, they challenge it. The corporations challenge it. The student loan lenders challenge it. That is not right.
Most Americans disagree with the big government union bosses. Back in 2020, a father confronted then presidential candidate Elizabeth Warren at a town hall meeting about the unfairness of forcing his tax dollars to pay down other people's student debt after he had worked hard and saved to pay for his own daughter's college education.
I just want to ask one question. My daughter's getting out of school. I've saved all my money. She doesn't have any student loan. Am I going to get my money back? Of course not. So you're going to pay for people who didn't save any money, and those of us that did the right thing get screwed.
No, it's not anybody got screwed. When we started,
of course we did. My buddy had fun, bought a car, went on vacations. I saved my money. He made more than I did. But I worked a double shift, worked extra. My daughter's worksheet is 10. So you're laughing. Yeah, that's exactly what you're doing. We did the right thing, and we get screwed.
DFI joined with 5 former secretaries of education to file an amicus brief with the Supreme Court in support of those states challenging the Biden bailout scheme that was going to cost nearly $500 billion over 10 years. This is the first time 5 former secretaries of education had appeared on a brief like this. It was an historic first, and we're pleased to say that the court ultimately overturned Biden's bailout in the Biden v. Nebraska case, and we're very pleased to have played a role in that.
Biden's loan cancellation plan was just quite simply not constitutional. The president doesn't have the authority to unilaterally create policies of this scale. This is something that we call on Congress to do. And without Congress making that legislative change, the court basically stopped the president from moving forward on that front.
So Biden went back to the drawing board and announced the SAVE plan, a revamp of income-driven repayment that would cost taxpayers an estimated $475 billion over the next 10 years.
The parameters of the SAVE program are in fact so generous that it's not really a safety net. It's designed as a handout to those who maybe are already in privileged positions of having a college or even a graduate degree and the earnings that comes with it.
The president would later brag about how the Supreme Court ruling wouldn't stop him from even more mass loan forgiveness.
The Supreme Court blocked me from relieving student debt, but they didn't stop me. So far, I've relieved student debt for nearly 5 million Americans.
While Biden started implementing much of the SAVE plan right away, he had to set a later implementation date for some of the most expensive elements. It was months later in July of 2024. In the spring, 18 states sued to stop the plan.
This is a huge amount of money that's going to be pushed on the taxpayers now. You know, there's never really any student loan forgiveness. There's just a student loan transferring from borrowers to taxpayers. And a lot of states have said, you know, this isn't right. This is completely illegal, and we're going to sue over it.
While the fate of the SAVE plan was being decided in the courts, Biden continued to use other programs to cancel even more student debt.
Congress wasn't interested in making student loan cancellation happen. We saw that when there was Democratic control in Congress. In fact, they did not pass legislation to make that happen. Yet the administration just moved forward with using whatever executive authority they perceived that they did have, whether it's dubious or not, in order to take piecemeal bites off of the outstanding student loan balance.
But the battle to protect taxpayers from the Biden administration's unfair, unconstitutional, and expensive loan cancellation schemes continues. DFI is at the forefront of that work. To learn more, please visit dfipolicy.org/notmydebt.